What's cracking, people? Angelic Mayhem here. Welcome to Final Thoughts, the video series where I point out the pros and cons of a brand new video game title so that you can decide for yourself if it's right for you. In this episode, I am currently 9 hours into a video game called Path of Exile. This game is broken into 3 acts, and I am on the precipice of starting Act 2. In this series, you never have to wait for my opinion. In this case, Path of Exile is an excellent game that proudly reflects the quality you would expect from a title that was in development for 7 years. But is it right for you? Well, let's find out. To begin, Path of Exile is an online free-to-play RPG where you play as a criminal castaway left to rot on an enchanted island full of thousands of creeps you must navigate in order to discover the secrets of the island. The online aspect of the game allows you to band together with other players to explore areas and conquer bosses. Sadly, there's no standalone version of the game, so you must have an internet connection. As in most RPGs, you must upgrade your character as you go along using the game's massive skill tree, which contains about 1,300 nodes that alter various aspects of your character's performance. The key to victory is to balance the need to fight 2 different types of enemies, massive hordes of creeps that pour in from all around you, as well as single mega buffed bosses that can be found at the end of most levels. You also have a plethora of weapons, upgrade gems, and armor to keep you preoccupied in between scripted revelations of a frankly very interesting plot that revolves around the deaths of many of the exiles who came before you. The game is developed by Grinding Gear Games, a company out of Auckland, New Zealand. If you've never heard of them, you shouldn't be surprised. This is actually their first game. But don't let that fool you. Path of Exile is as polished and well thought out as any AAA title, and a must-play for RPG enthusiasts. So let's talk about pros and cons. First up, the pros. For me, first and foremost, before all other aspects of the game, is the passive skill upgrade system, which allows you to customize your character as you go along. The level of customization is absolutely staggering. The skill tree is composed of some 1,300 nodes, and out of those you get about 200, 250 to play with during the course of the game. The skill tree is a game unto itself, as you have to navigate the tree very carefully without running out of skill points to get all the stuff that you want to get. The options menu is fantastic. It covers a wide variety of user interface settings that let you get pretty specific in terms of upgrading your HUD. And when you roll over anything inside the options menu, a little pop-up box comes up to tell you what it does. There's also a rekey binding, which is always a plus, and a connection to Twitter, just in case you have friends who would like to watch you play 30 hours of a video game. There are 7 different classes in the game, 6 that you can choose from initially, and then there's a 7th class called the Scion that you can choose after you've beaten the game. Each of these classes has its own location on the skill tree, making each class unique in how you can upgrade it. No class is pigeonholed, mind you, in what it can do, so if you prefer to have an archer that can summon totems, that's doable, provided you're lucky enough to find the right spells. You can upgrade almost anything in the game, including the gems, the flasks, the weapons, the armor, and the spells. Half of the time that you spend in the game will just be standing around altering various things that you find in your inventory. In fact, you can take the lowliest tree branch and carry it all the way to the end of the game, converting it along the way into a horror stick built for the most frightening witch you've ever seen. The lighting in this game is phenomenal. There are reflections, shadows that cast onto the camera, and refractions of light in liquids like blood. There are even places where enemies approaching from off-camera will cast a shadow, letting you know that they're on their way. The game appears to be about 30 hours in length, a great amount of time for an RPG, and has infinite replayability. As the zones are procedurally generated, making them new each time you play them, and the skill tree means that you can even play the same class in multiple ways. When you complete a mission, you can choose from a variety of rewards, further adding to the already vast amount of customization that's available for your character. This is one of my favorites. You can own a pet kiwi. OMG, exclamation point, exclamation point. Even if you leave the area, the bodies of the creeps and bosses that you've slain will remain where they are. They don't disappear. This is amazingly awesome, as it helps you to identify places where you've already been during the course of navigating the area. The sound effects and the music are fantastic. The ambiance is forlorn. When you walk by birds, they squawk as they fly away. Ambient rain is in the background, ocean sounds, things like that. It's really well done.
Black storms descend on us from the north. Unnatural tempests of rage and hatred, lashing our backs, tearing at our houses.
In the HUD, you can click on your hotkeys directly and then swap out the spells or attacks without having to pull up the options menu. This is actually really convenient, and it was a nice touch. Finally, the world itself is just a gorgeous place. There's all kinds of vegetation and different biomes. Sometimes you're in sand, other times you're in buildings, sometimes it's raining, other times it's a sunset. It's a great variety that keeps the path moving forward, and it's always very fresh and interesting. All right, now let's talk about the cons. I didn't have much to complain about with this game, but there was a few things that I happened to notice, so I figured I'd mention them. Not that the game is complicated, but there is no help file. So for people who aren't familiar with role-playing games, they might be in the dark a bit. Inventory Tetris is a nice way to add challenge to the game. However, it becomes repetitive after a while. I can't swear that they don't have any backpacks because I haven't beaten the game all the way through yet, but any way to upgrade how much you could hold would be really sweet. While you eventually become used to it, the isometric camera is a pain. If they could just pull it back like just a few feet, that would, in my opinion, improve the game immensely. When you start playing, they tell you at the beginning that if you hold down the Alt key, you will be able to see all of the objects in the area. What they fail to tell you is that if you hold down Shift, you can actually prevent yourself from running, for instance, into a crowd of zombies should you misclick on one of them and you are an archer with a bow and arrow. Okay? So Alt and Shift, those are your two most important keys. The plot of this story is excellent, but it comes to you via voiceover. Okay? So if you're deaf or you have the voices muted, your only other choice is to read the pop-up box. Sadly, the text actually scrolls in the pop-up box at an achingly slow speed. This is my chief complaint about the game, as most of these boxes occur right after a boss battle, when you're all amped up with adrenaline, and then you have to calm down and wait for the plot to roll past you. I read incredibly fast. Just give me the whole block of text, okay? The standard key bindings are uncomfortable. Expect at some time around the end of the first act to want to re-key bind everything. The overlay map that you pull up to see where you are is oftentimes really difficult to see. I'm a little biased because as a gamer, I hate overlay maps just in general, but this one is particularly difficult to use against the backdrop of their complex terrain, you know, so it kind of blends into the grass and things like that. It's not, I don't know, it's really tough to use most of the time. Though my love of the skill tree knows no bounds, if it was color-coded so that you could see the areas where, like, for instance, the witch should focus or the duelist would be most at home, that would really help out new players. Also, there should be a way to click on the node that you'd like to get to eventually and have like a ghost path that shows you which nodes to buy in order to get there the fastest. For right now, 1,300 nodes is really kind of overwhelming when you first look at it. And when you're trying to figure out where you want to go, it would be nice if there was a way that the game could actually show you that. When you start a new character, you can't use numbers in your name. So you couldn't be, for instance, Mike 1 or Mike 29292. Which is going to cause problems if this game becomes popular, because if 1 million people are all trying to pick a unique and brand new name, I mean, what are the odds of that? You know what I mean? So it would be nice if you could throw in some numbers. So, throughout the game, you're going to pick up gems, okay? And when you load them into your weapons, then, the gem will actually upgrade as you are using it, while you're playing. If you fail to click on a gem after it upgrades, perhaps because you are trying not to get hooked by a corrupt prison warden, then that gem will actually stop accumulating upgrade points until you finally remember to click the button. That's more of a problem at the start of the game when, the upgrades are coming pretty quick, but I wish that they would kind of fix that. It should still keep grabbing up points. Now, the game is only online. This means that it comes with the same trappings as other online games. Lag causes the game to do odd things, like display creeps that aren't actually there. If your connection craps out or you log off for any reason, a certain amount of your progress will be lost. There's no save button, and the zones that you visit are procedurally generated, so if you do get booted and you try to get back on right away, the zone will be completely new when you get back on, and you'll have to start it again. Also, on day one, they had some server drop issues, but I haven't seen anything since, so I feel safe in saying that they seem to have fixed those problems. This stuff is the nature of the beast. It's just one of those things that comes with online games, but this game would be almost perfect if they had a standalone version. So I'm just throwing that out there. When they called the game Path of Exile, they weren't kidding. It's a path. I really wish that there was more in the way of side quests and maybe alternative plot decisions. But so far, at least in Act 1, I haven't seen anything like that. And for the most part, it's all about the primary path, and the diversity comes from how you build your particular character. There are times when you'll enter a new area and you'll find yourself standing in a massive crowd of creeps. Now, that's a bad thing, because then you end up dead. There should always be like a landing point or something like that where, even if it's immediately followed by chaos, your players can get oriented. So I'd like to see that, in certain places. Finally, the only technical problem that I had in the game was in attempting to use certain upgrade gems. Sometimes the gem tells me that it can be used on an unequipped magical item, but when I attempt to use it on such an item, nothing happens, and I get an error message. I don't know if this is a bug or if maybe I'm doing something wrong. I'm not 100% sure on that yet, but if my shield is so upgraded that it's just run out of room for more awesomeness. But I hope somebody will kind of look into that and maybe give us some clearer instructions or something. So, final thoughts. Often in RPG games, there is a shallowness in each aspect of play. Plot, upgrades, weapons, and so on. That while they may be successful together, each will kind of fall to pieces upon closer inspection. So if you really like plot or you really like weapons, there are very few games where, you will actually be able to delve very deeply into that aspect of the game that you truly love. This game is deep on every level, and it creates an experience that is incredibly fun and exciting. This game is free, but I personally will be investing in several of the items that I found in their store, not only because I want desperately to own a pet kiwi, but also because I want grinding gear games to be able to make more of everything. When it comes to nerd porn, the passive skill upgrade system is absolutely masturbatory. For that reason alone, I recommend this game. But from the sheer scope of weapons to the engaging 3-act plot, this free-to-play offering will simply blow your mind. Is it right for you? Well, only you can decide that. Hopefully this video has helped. Feel free to leave me any questions in the comments below, and I'll try to answer them if I can. In the meantime, thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please click the like button or subscribe to my YouTube channel for more content like this in the future. I'm Angelic Mayhem, and I will see you next time.